All right, welcome back to another episode of Geeks-a-Musing. This is Nathan.
And this is Ryan.
Yeah, we're down here in the man cave talking about this stuff.
And all of a sudden you're a gay.
Oh, dang. Now,
You didn't warn me about this.
I told you.
yeah, you probably,
That's what you did.
yeah, you guys didn't hear. There's nobody else here. It's just me and Ryan.
That's a ghost.
Yeah, it's a ghost.
He just showed up.
No, but yeah, we're here. We're back. We're going to be talking comics/manga, and so we decided to bring in our first guest, which is a guy we both know from our former job, Jason.
Who shall remain nameless because they don't deserve the.
Oh, the company. I thought you were talking about your name. I was like,
No.
oh crap! I just said Jason.
Too bad your name's Jason.
No,
Yeah, he knows a lot, way more about comics and manga than I do. Ryan knows more about that than I do too. So
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of step back here after a few minutes and let them talk. I'll chime in about some of my personal favorites. But I know before we get started on that, we usually do what we've been up to. We're going to kind of skip that. But before we jump into the regular episode, evidently I heard that Ryan and Jason before I got here were talking Blizzard. So Ryan said something about Blizzard, so I'm going to let him get into that right now.
yes.
It's not Blizzard the shake from Dairy Queen, 'cause those are delicious. Blizzard, the game company, they're suing some game company that made a game kind of like their Overwatch, so they did like a team-based shooter. But I think, in their defense, a lot of the stuff was kind of stolen. Like they have a gunslinger, but it's a female instead of the male one they have.
Yeah.
But like basically, it's funny to hear Blizzard suing somebody for a team-based shooter because their whole concept came from a team-based shooter.
So they're suing somebody for ripping off their team-based shooter that they ripped off from somebody else's team-based
Was
shooter.
it Team Fortress?
What?
Yeah, Team
Yeah.
Fortress. It'd be like if Blizzard thought World of Warcraft was the first multi-online game, fantasy game.
I wanted to hear just because where you're standing at with the microphone. I wanted to see if it was picking you up good.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
It kind of
Was?
sounded like you're off in the distance a little bit.
Really?
Yeah,
Have to be right here.
there. Yeah, you're a lot
Oh,
better.
Jesus. Okay.
So
Mic check. 1, 2.
yeah,
1,
actually,
2.
Jason sounds more clear than you do. I guess because he's more in front of it and you're coming at an angle.
All right.
Which is, I guess, that'll be my cue. I'm gonna move off here. I'll let Jason take my seat.
Okay.
Oh, how generous of you.
Yes.
All right. So, what do you want to hang out here?
Yeah, I'll just hang back. You'll hear me in the distance.
Okay.
From a distance.
No.
Oh.
Let's stop. I think that's pretty much it about the Blizzard thing. But that is
What
kind
about
of
the DLC thing with Cinco?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
From Darkstalkers.
I almost forgot about that. So they do their Halloween thing where they'll have costumes for the different characters that you get in the little loot boxes in the game. And so for the one character May, who's I think she's based out of China. She's a Chinese character. So for their Halloween thing for her, they made her a Chinese ghost. And basically used the hat and the little scroll thing in front of her eye, which is just like, what was her name, Senko?
Cinco.
That was in Darkstalkers, the fighting game. Because there was a Chinese ghost in that, and the little scroll that came down in front of her eye was like her sister, but I think together they formed the ghost. I think that's how it works, yeah.
I think that was how it worked.
Darkstalkers was kind of like a Street Fighter game, but it was like all creatures from like
It was
horror
all
movies
famous
like
horror movie
vampires,
monsters. They had
succubus,
vampires,
the cat
Frankenstein,
Frankenstein, yeah, the mummy. That dude was big.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And he
they
could split into two.
yeah. But they had they basically took the costume from that character.
Hang on one second.
What are you doing?
I was trying to see because there's a microphone on this. I was trying to see if it would pick up.
Does it work?
I can't tell. It might. Looks like it's picking it up a little bit.
Yeah, it is. Nice seeing on there.
Yeah, we'll try it. I'll try it and see.
Okay.
Well, try it. See if it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that
You're now an official
So now-
broadcaster.
Yeah,
You have-
now I'm official. I got the headset.
So now Capcom needs to sue Blizzard for stealing their character. I mean, technically they probably couldn't because a Chinese ghost is not there's been Chinese ghosts a long time.
I was gonna say just Capcom all that.
But yeah, but like the
So then you're saying
the costume idea was
Gotcha.
taken from another character.
So then Capcom should sue them, and then the Chinese ghosts should sue Capcom.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Give them a voice, yes. But the problem is they can't cross rivers because they can't cross rivers with an angled bridge.
I don't know how that's gonna sound. I'm afraid I'm afraid it's gonna screw the audio up.
Yeah.
I just put that in. I wanted to hear your guys' audio to make sure it sounded.
You might have to actually go through and edit some stuff.
Never.
You did edit the Halloween. Wait, was it Halloween? Yeah, because I listened to the soundtrack before I came in here.
Oh,
It was
you
good.
know what? I edited the Halloween episode.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think I just took out some of the pauses.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think other than that, I don't think I cut anything out.
All right. Okay, that's all I have for stuff.
No,
My
I'll-
complaints.
Well, I'll let you can basically lead the
What?
lead on this one. Yeah.
Don't make me lead stuff.
You're the point guard.
Yeah. What do you got for the topics?
For topics for comics and manga, should we go into movies or no?
Well, seeing as just about everything is based on a comic book or a manga nowadays.
Yeah, we might be here a while if we do movies.
Yeah,
too.
we might just have to go over comics.
Yeah.
Now, do you have your topics sheet
No,
for this one? Oh, okay.
I'm gonna wing it. I know. I'm basically just gonna go off stuff that I actually read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
So-
sir.
All right. Okay. For my number 5 comics, I collected comics early '90s to maybe a little bit when I was in the Navy. That's when the onslaught stuff was going on in the X-Men, and then a little bit after that, and then that was it. I really didn't collect comics after that. So for my number 5, one of the comics I collected was Gen 13.
I've read one of those before.
Yeah, Gen 13 was Scott J. Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked his art style. The guy kind of lacks in story because he's more about the eye candy when he does his stuff, but his eye candy's really good. But then they had that, and then like when he was done, there was an artist after him that was pretty good, and the story actually picked up a little bit better. But then after that, it's not Halloween yet. But then after that,
Forgot to mute it.
it just kind of went down. I didn't collect it anymore. And then they had a branch off that because there was kids that were in the program with them, and they were called DV8, but they were all like psychotic like people. Like I can't remember some of their names, but like one was like this girl who used a 3-section staff as a fighting weapon, and I can't remember what her power was. But then there was only one character I remember was Copycat. She was this girl who was like, she was a nutcase. She didn't really talk. But when she did, she would be like, she could like take over your body. So if you had a gun, she could make you use the gun on yourself. Or she could basically make you do what she wants you to do with your body. She basically just took over your body, body control.
Oh.
But she was one of the cool characters.
Reminds me of that one DC character. I can't think of his name. He can take over people's bodies. Was it like the Phantom or something?
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
usually some kind of weird name that has to
He
do with
could
their
take
powers.
over
Yeah,
But yeah, go ahead.
I mean that number 5 was pretty quick. All right,
So-
that's it. That's my number 5.
That's your number 5. All right, Jason. You can go.
All right. My number 5 was one I almost forgot about that just popped into my mind. I want to say it was in either the early 90s or the late 80s. Marvel did a 5-issue Double Dragon series. And it was like spectacular.
I remember that
Double
one.
It was-
Dragon, the video. Whoa.
Yeah, the video game
Okay.
Double
Video
Dragon.
game first, or was it a comic first?
It was a video game
Yeah.
first. It was it was arcade and regular Nintendo, and Marvel got the rights and they did a 5-issue comic book that was extremely violent.
Oh,
and
okay.
but what it is, they also gave Billy and Jimmy this power called the Dragon Power. And when they used it, they had this body armor and weapons that they could call on, and it was a much better and more coherent story than the game than just trying to rescue the kidnapped girlfriend.
Wasn't that the end of Double Dragon when on the game where you had to fight each other over the girl?
That was
Game's weird, man.
hold on. That was actually, I'm trying to remember if that was the arcade version or
I think that was.
or the Nintendo version where you
It
had
was
to fight
probably the
each other.
Nintendo version.
I think it was the Nintendo version because they couldn't do both characters at the same time.
Yeah.
The game itself was a one-player, may have been a one-player game, or at least the first game. I remember Double Dragon 2 went back to being 2-player, that comic book, it was really good. Had some great artwork. I'm not like you, where I get into the particular artists or remember a lot of the artists. It's just that I just remembered.
I'm an artist, so I got to pick up.
I just remember having that 5-issue comic book, and I had 4 out of 5. I missed the first issue, but the rest of it was good. So I was gonna say, Nathan, are you in on this, or are you just?
I'm kind of just wandering around in the background right now.
Yeah.
I'm lost. So they're talking, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. No, I was looking for something.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5. It's not this, but I wanted to show it. I don't know. I'm a huge Tell 'em Steve Dave fan, and so Walt Flanagan is really good. I got this a while ago. It was Kevin Smith and Walt Flanagan did a Batman: The Widening Gyre issue. And so one week on Tell 'em Steve Dave, he had what he called the booty time, which was really good deals. And so this one was I called the stash and actually talked to Mike Zapsik. So in this one, he signed it and wrote and drew in a zombie Batman.
Okay, that's
Nice.
Cool.
That's not my number 5. I actually haven't even read it.
Notice all that noise you're hearing is him pulling it out of cellophane and packaging and doing the retina scan.
Cardboard bag.
That's right. My number 5, I don't really have an overall. My number 5 is not going to be my 5th favorite ever again, because when lists, unless it's like movies, I have a definitive number 1. Comics, I don't really have a definitive number 1, so I'm going to go with. I've got a couple on here by the same guy, so I'm going to go with Alan Moore's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as my number 5. I don't know if any of you guys have read that.
I've not read it. I just remember the movie. And what's funny is people hate the movie. I loved it.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a fan of the movie, but holy crap, the comic is so much better and in areas so much more messed up. Because now if you guys haven't read it, I don't want to spoil anything in case you eventually do. Well, I don't want to spoil it for Jason in case he happens to ever read it. But it's just got some messed up stuff in that comic. But that's going to be my number 5.
I just know the movie is infamous because I think it was the movie that made Sean Connery retire from acting.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, that was like his last movie, pretty much. Number 4. Let's see. I guess number 4 would have to be. It's not really. I don't think it's based on any. Like, I never really got a lot of Marvel comics or DC comics, nothing like that. I always went like Image.
I did too.
And then there was other people who were like, just kind of offshoots of other comics and stuff like that, like Dark Horse, stuff like that.
You got people who are hardcore Marvel, hardcore DC.
Yeah.
Like, I love, not me, just whatever's good, man, I'll read it.
So there was one it was this guy named Fred Perry, and I think he still draws, but now he draws more like, adult stuff. But he did this one called Gold Digger.
Yeah.
And it was basically these 2 sisters. I think one was an adopted sister, but she was a were-cheetah. It was weird. I think her name was Brittany, and then her sister.
I figures Brittany.
And then her sister was they were all big. They were all beginning to like and they're going shopping at the mall. But her little sister was like this. She was this nerd who suddenly became like her sister. Like pointed out, she was like, "Look at you. There isn't a guy who wouldn't want you." And she kind of like snapped out of it. So then all of a sudden she's boy crazy. But she was like, she's a genius level like scientist. So she comes up with all these like weird like inventions and stuff. But she's also like an archaeologist, kind of like Indiana Jones. So they always go on these adventures. But it was like this weird just cast of characters that you would find out of like manga and anime and stuff like that. But it was a pretty good series, and the guy was at a pretty decent art style. I mean, he'd get a lot done with very little. So
when was that out?
That may have been before I went in the Navy, so 94, so like between 90 and 94. And I think they were doing stuff after that. Actually after that, like I actually found like action figures. So I have like two action figures of the Brittany character, but she had like different costumes. But I think they're in the bottom of a drawer somewhere. I don't know. I don't even care. So, it's my number 4. So
okay, my number 4 came out in the 90s. It was during the height of the Ninja Turtles popularity. Well, I got indoctrinated into Ninja Turtles because of the cartoon.
Yeah, same here.
And
I remember him before the cartoon.
well,
Old man, take a look at my life.
well, the funny thing about it is, my dad had a subscription to Thor. That's how I got into comic books. I had a subscription to the Marvel run of Transformers, and every so often we would get these comic book catalogs in the mail, and I decided to order a Ninja Turtles graphic novel, and got my brain melted because of, well, first of all, the multicolored masks were just the cartoon.
Yeah.
In the comic book, they all had red masks.
You could only tell who they were by their weapons.
Yeah. And it was a collection of different stories, extremely violent.
Really?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I forget if it was Eastman or Laird that was completely unhappy with the cartoon and the direction it went. The funny thing is everything that was in the cartoon that was decided by businessmen made the cartoon iconic.
That is such a weird thing. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like karate Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Like what took off about about that took off? Like, who was the first person to go, yeah, we can market this? Them kids and little brats will buy anything.
Yeah. Well, it's like a lot of the stuff that was in the cartoon was not in the comic book. Because Eastman and Laird created the comic book themselves. It was Peter Eastman and Kevin Laird.
Yeah, they used to goof off and just make
One of them has nothing to do with it anymore. I think it's
Okay.
Eastman.
Yeah.
I think he's just done.
But I
with
know
it.
they did a bunch of different ones. Like they did, what was it? Adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters. They did all kinds of weird extra little characters like
At the same time they did the Ninja Turtles?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were
And
just
the Turtles just happened to
they were
take
just
off?
goofing off.
Oh yeah, it was like they went to other dimensions. It's like if I ever get a chance to if I find my graphic novel, I'm gonna pull it back out and the funny thing is like April was not a redhead. She was like
Wasn't she a Latina?
She was Latino or something. Yeah. But
Spunky Latino attitude.
there was one story where the Turtles even had where Raphael and Michelangelo had different weapons.
Oh, really?
It was like
about that?
early when they were young. It was like Michelangelo had something called a Manriki Gusari, and it's like a chain with a weight on the end of it.
Yeah, that's
Sweet,
right.
yeah, what?
Manriki Gusari.
It's a Japanese
It's
ninja weapon.
yeah. It's like instead of having nunchucks, it's like a long chain with a weight on the end of it.
Like in Kill Bill?
Yes. Like
okay.
the girl had the chain that had the spiked saw
Yeah,
blade on
yeah.
it. It was like that, but it was just a weight. And Raphael didn't have his sai. He had like nightsticks.
Oh, okay, like tonfas.
Yeah.
Okay.
The funny
cool.
thing about that was the move that Donatello pulled off on this guy on a security guard. It was like he was just hanging on the ceiling and he dropped his bow staff. And the guy went, looked at it, picked it up, put it over his shoulder. Donatello dropped down behind him, grabbed the bow staff, and when the guy turned around, he smacked him with it. Yeah.
Poor guy was just working and then he got clocked.
Yeah.
Stupid Ninja Turtles.
But yeah, that was
I tend to side with security guards nowadays.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna go with something.
But yeah, that graphic novel, like, it completely blew my mind that, like, wait a minute, it's like, this is the Ninja Turtles? It was like Shredder was still the villain. I don't remember if Krang was involved. I don't think he was. I think he was also part of the cartoon.
And I think he was in the comic strip, or the comic strip. He was in the comics, like he was in the funnies next to Calvin and Hobbes.
And what's funny is in the comic book, Baxter Stockman was originally black.
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
a black guy.
They
I just
made
thought
him
it
a
would
little
be
white nerdy
funny.
dude in the
I was just
cartoon.
thinking Baxter Stockman. He got turned into the Fly character. In the cartoon, they made him white.
I don't remember that character.
Yeah, he was a scientist,
Yeah.
and he had some kind of accident that turned him into a fly. He created the Mousers, the machine robots that were after Splinter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I just thought it would be funny if they did a Ninja Turtles movie now and just cast Jaleel White, you remember Urkel, as Baxter Stockman. I would totally do that. But yeah. I think recently it was Tyler Perry, I think, in the new one.
It was.
Which I haven't seen
watched that.
the second Ninja Turtles movie. The first one was Shredder looked like a Decepticon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah, I got made to watch that movie while donating plasma.
You got made.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
no,
I was sitting there in a chair with a needle in my arm. I couldn't leave, and I had to watch that movie. But that's
You're
pretty much
you're
what I
"Man,
think
look,
of any
look
movie
at all the
now.
bloodies pumping out because you're like going, son of a bitch.
It's like that's what I think of any movie with Michael Bay involved now. So
Yeah, he used to make some good stuff.
What?
He did. All right, my number 4.
Name one.
I'm gonna throw out. Dude,
let's not do that here. We might be here a while.
Yeah, we might. All right, my number 4. I'm gonna go with, again. Mine are all the cliched, well-known ones, just because I actually haven't gotten too deep into it. I can't remember the exact name, but it's the Infinity Gauntlet one. What was the?
Infinity Wars?
Was that? Was that the actual title of it?
Yeah, the Infinity Wars.
The Infinity Wars, where they
Yeah.
actually battle, and then
with Thanos.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they end up giving the gauntlet to what's his name at the end.
Adam Warlock. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. I remember.
Which anybody who's watching the Marvel movies, pay attention to all this, because
Now, have they had
there'll
an
be
Adam?
a pop quiz later.
Do they have? Has Adam Warlock been in the?
Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
No.
How many times have I told
That's
you?
all. That's all.
I'll
I'm gonna
just
say.
wait. Okay. I'm
That's
still. I'm
all
waiting
I'm
to
gonna
get.
say.
Like the Marvel movies, wait to the end. Wait
Like
till
I
after the
said,
credits.
pay attention to
Okay.
what we're talking about with Infinity War now, because there's gonna be a pop quiz in probably late next year.
It seems like every time we get together, Ryan's asking me, "Have you watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2 yet?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't watched it." But yeah, that's
See,
I
next
remember.
time you have me as a guest, I can bring it because I have the combo pack. I have it.
Well,
on
I have
Blu-ray.
He gave me the digital copy, so I
Okay.
got it. I just haven't had a chance to sit down and watch it because I want to watch it with my family, and it's
Yeah.
just been kind of crazy for us all to be able to sit down for the It's almost a 2.5 hour movie.
No, I don't think it's that long.
Is it 2:15? It's over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's something.
But I just haven't had a chance.
But if you saw the first one, you
Yeah.
like the second one.
Okay, well, yeah.
But everything you said about Infinity Wars, there will be a pop quiz later.
Okay, yeah. See, I remember the movies coming out are called Infinity Wars. I just couldn't remember if that was the name of the actual comic run. I couldn't remember if it was
that was the name of the comic book run was Infinity War.
Infinity War. Okay, yeah, I remember. I read it in what's it called? Trade paperback, the graphic novel or the compilation of them all together. But I really, really liked that. I liked it. That came out what? Late 80s or is that early 90s?
I want to say might have been mid 80s.
Oh, mid 80s?
I think.
See, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've read it.
Because Infinity War is way back in Marvel's history.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember liking it a lot. It was really good. Really good series.
I just remember all kinds of superheroes getting killed over and over and over and over.
In Infinity Wars?
Yeah.
See, I don't remember that. I don't remember that part.
Well, I mean, when you
But
get
that's
into the gems and the gems
What was it,
Thanos
like,
has, and
Cyclops got his head encased in glass.
I don't remember.
don't
Like-
spoil it for the kid.
That was my number
Well-
4.
Well, the bad thing about them doing Infinity War now is Marvel doesn't own the movie rights to all the characters.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of people that are going to be absent from Infinity War that should be in it.
Come on, Disney. You was pony up some more money. Buy all those characters.
Well, 20th Century Fox still think they can make good X-Men movies. So.
Logan, I haven't watched it yet, but Logan's good.
Logan
Jesus.
was actually good. Logan was
But-
actually good, but
They can't, even though we said we weren't going to talk movies, they can't seem to make a Fantastic Four movie though.
Oh yeah, nobody can.
All right, sorry. Okay, we can move on to you guys' number 3.
the last Fantastic Four movie was so horrible. It was one of those movies where I got madder the longer I watched it.
What is Chris? What's the guy's name? On YouTube, the guy that does movie reviews.
Stuckman?
Yeah, Chris Stuckman calls him. He calls it fan four stick. That's the way they wrote it out.
Yeah.
He can't stand that movie.
If you're a pure Marvel fan, all you have to look at is a picture of their Doctor Doom from that movie, and you will get triggered.
Oh yeah, it was horrible. I don't think they've done any of them that look good.
That one made me want to watch the first two again.
Yeah, it made the first 2 look good.
Yeah, it made the first two look good. It made the first two look Oscar worthy.
Oh man.
Okay.
All right, before we go into number 3, I have 2 questions. Do you remember what your very first comic was? Because I actually remember what my very first comic was, and I'm the oldest one here.
No, I don't remember.
Really?
Hold on, I'm cycling through memory. I'm cycling through files.
Because I didn't get into comics till my mid-teens.
All right.
And that wasn't even hardcore. I didn't really get into hardcore reading it, and by hardcore I mean reading some of the classics until I worked at Afinian. I mean, I was in my 20s before I read Infinity Wars 300.
I was 4, but I remember my very first comic because I cut the crap out of the comic book.
I want to say for me it was probably an issue of Thor because, like I said, my
that's right.
my dad was really into Thor. Speaking of which, that was one of the greatest Christmas presents I was able to get him. I got him the last issue of the original run of Thor.
Okay. Did they restart it or something?
Yeah, they restarted it, but the original run of Thor ended. I just can't remember what year it was. If it was 2009 or something like that. It was the very last issue of Ragnarok.
Oh, topical.
Yeah.
Is the world about to end?
No, Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I was hoping something good was going to happen. Okay, so my first one was, I was 4 years old and I didn't buy this comic. My mom bought it for me because my favorite person at the time, one of my first crushes, Linda Carter, it was a Wonder Woman comic book.
I had to do the whole themes.
I remember I took it home and I like gingerly cut out all the little Wonder Woman things, and then I would remember how they had those what were those? Those little sticky things you put them on the background.
Yeah.
They had like a little. I used to draw backgrounds and then I'd put her on there.
Did you start dressing like Wonder Woman?
No, because they didn't make panties. They didn't make panties my size back then. Make fun of me.
That's adorable. That's so sweet.
Good night, everybody.
Linda Carter's awesome. She's still awesome.
Yeah, she is.
Yes, recently I remember for the premiere of the Wonder Woman movie, they had a picture of a Gal Gadot with Linda Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did a lot of help on that maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this: the one thing that kind of got me into checking into more comics was actually the Predator vs. Aliens comics. Because it was the gore. It was the gore that got me into
I wish the movies would have stuck with the comic book because I read the Aliens vs. Predator comic books, and the story in the comics was much better.
Yeah, the movies were good.
My friend Travis and I invented Aliens vs. Predator.
What?
we were talking about the Predator.
What year?
This was like.
Was it before?
It was in high school, so it was like 87, 88, something like that. But we were talking about that, and then we were talking about what would be cool is if the predators hunt things, they can't just hunt things on Earth. They got to hunt things all throughout the galaxy. Because what's stopping them from going wherever they want to go? Mm-hmm. But then we were like, well, if they had to run into aliens at one point or another. So we were talking about that, and then we went and saw Predator 2, and they had the alien skull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end when Danny Glover went in the ship and it opened the trophy case.
And we were like, oh my god, that's awesome.
There was an alien skull in the trophy case.
There's actually a Predator skull in there, too.
Which is kind of weird.
Which is like weird. Well, maybe that was a badass Predator who was like a Civil War leader or something.
Yeah. Well, actually, because we talked about before we started the Batman versus Predator, they did that like 3 times, and I think Batman versus Predator 3, a rogue Predator came to Earth unauthorized trying to hunt Batman, and the Predators sent a group to stop him.
Well, Didn't somebody make a short film, Batman vs. Predator?
I remember it was a comic
or
book.
Batman vs. Predator versus Alien or something, because the alien kills the Joker, doesn't he?
Yeah, like pulled him into the shadows. And
something like that.
You didn't hear any more from the Joker. That was.
Oh man, that's creepy. The idea of a Joker.
It was a student from it. It was actually pretty good. You should look it up after this.
Yeah, because the idea of a Joker alien.
But he's like, the Joker was like talking to Batman, and then he gets pulled into the shadows, and then you see the alien's face come out of the shadow. You're like, what the hell's going on here? And then the Predator's there. Yeah. You see that Predator versus Wolverine? You know how they was
superpowered beatdown?
Yeah, it was one of those.
Well, here's the thing.
That was pretty good.
Predator can't kill Wolverine. I don't think he, other than his self-destruct, I don't think he has a weapon that could kill Wolverine.
I think the self-destruct would just basically incinerate Wolverine. Yeah. He'd just be like that,
laying
there for a while going, this sucks.
But if his skeleton is left and there's still DNA on the skeleton, he could regenerate.
there was a comment because a friend of mine, Robert's really into the Hulk. He loves the Hulk. I've seen that dude fight before. He fights like the Hulk would fight.
Yeah, the Hulk, man. Once those animated movies that came out, Planet Hulk,
Well,
Hulk versus Thor, Hulk versus Wolverine. Yeah, Hulk versus. Those really got me into Hulk. I wanted to start reading some of the comics. I haven't gotten around to it, but those really started getting me into the Hulk.
Speaking of comics, y'all mind if I go ahead and do my number 3 since he just brought up Hulk?
Well, did you ever see when there was a guy named Vector? Is that his name? In the Hulk comics. Basically, he throws resistance out. So like if you're pushing against it, it'll strip the skin right off your bones. But like he does that to the Hulk, and he basically stripped the Hulk down from how tall is the Hulk? 12 feet tall, something like that.
Something like that.
He like shrunk him all the way back down to human size. So he was basically a skeleton with some meat on there and muzzle. And he walked up, and he still had, of course, Hulk strength. So he punched out Vector, and then he was like, they were like, "Are you gonna be okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, just give me a minute," because he was all messed up. But I was like, "Well, that's badass."
Oh dang.
Anyway.
Since he brought up the Hulk, I wanted to go ahead and do my number 3 because I told you my dad had a subscription to Thor.
Yeah.
I spent the whole Avengers movie waiting for Hulk and Thor to start fighting because my number 3, my dad had this one issue of Thor where Hulk and Thor met on the street and decided they were going to have a fist fight to see who was the strongest. But Hulk complained about Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. So Thor opened an interdimensional portal and threw his hammer into it so it would take a few hours for it to come back to him. And they just had a fist fight to see who was the strongest. And I know we read comic books for the story, but we also love the eye candy. Mm-hmm. You know, you always have that one moment in a comic book where where an art piece takes up a full page.
Yeah.
The best part of that fight was they were on the train tracks. The train was coming behind Hulk. And right when it was like an inch from his back, he turned, grabbed the locomotive, brought it over his head, and brought the whole train down on Thor.
Holy crap.
But the funny thing about that fight, like I said, they were having a fist fight. Hulk was winning against Thor in a straight hand-to-hand combat. Without Mjolnir, Hulk was pretty much handing Thor his butt.
Oh dang.
And that's my number 3.
Okay. You doing yours?
Go to yours.
Okay. My number 3. When I was in high school, I got more into like the manga stuff, but mine wasn't like the Japanese manga because back then they didn't have. You couldn't get manga like you can at like Barnes and Nobles now because they have like just walls and walls of it, and of course it's all translated.
Yeah.
But like, I was into a comic that's called. It was an anime before I knew it was a. Before I knew it was an anime, I was reading the comics, but the comics was by an American artist that was out here, and I can't remember his name. I want to say John, not Adam Hughes or Adam something. I don't remember. But the Dirty Pair, it sounds filthy, but it really isn't. The reason they're called the Lovely Angels. They're like a kind of like a secret agent kind of force. Like they're agents who go out on missions, kind of like if you wanted to put like 007. But 2 attractive women, you throw them out there, and then they do their missions. But the reason they got the nickname Dirty Pair is because every one of their missions, there's probably like something's gonna go wrong. Like they go to a space station, and that space station might get demolished and large loss of life. But at least they get the job done, but with a lot of casualties. So they started getting the nickname called the Dirty Pair. But I actually got some of the anime later on, and they were pretty funny. I wish they would do like a kind of maybe this is gonna sound weird coming from me, and maybe a reboot of it to where it sounds to where it's better with a little bit better animation. But I would also think you could do a pretty good movie. Kind of like that. If you just kind of like made it crazy and funny, and not try to make it serious.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I think I have some of the. I remember one time I actually saved money to buy those. You know, I get those little. What are they called? What are they? The little figures you can get in paint. What are they made? What are they made of?
If you hadn't asked me.
Go, Ryan.
I can't remember. They're like. There's some kind of plastic. But you basically get them and you super glue them together and paint them up. And I may still have them. They might be just somewhere. I don't know where they're at, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I know what you're talking about, but I cannot think of.
Yeah, I
the
can't.
name
I
of
can't
it.
remember the name of the. I want to say PVC, but I don't think that's right. PVC is like a pipe.
Yeah. PVC pipe.
I'm thinking of a plastic, but I don't know.
There we go.
I think that's it for that.
All right, I'll hop in and do my number 3. This is super cliched, especially for right now, this time. My number 3, I'll go ahead and say it. The Walking Dead.
Cliche, get out of here.
Yeah. Now, I started. I wish.
Now, don't shame me on this, but I've completely, like, over the past few years, refused to watch The Walking Dead.
Because of the
It came out at a time when I was tired of zombies.
I
think
I
okay.
get that. Yeah.
I got to the point where I was tired of zombies. I was playing Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword on my Wii, and I went underground, and there were zombies, and it was like, I'm done with zombies. It's like, I'm done. No more zombies.
Yeah,
I wish I was Scarlet Witch and I could just say no more zombies. And everybody moves on to another movie monster.
Well, I did start reading it before the TV show came out. I think my first issue was. Oh man! See, I remember hearing about it, and I'm so bummed that I didn't get issue number 1, and it was all solely out of I forgot, because it was one of those series coming out that you heard about, and I'm like, oh okay, yeah, I'd like to read that, and then I completely forgot about it, and I think I ended up picking up my first issue in the teens, and then I collected it all the way up through the 30s, I think, and then at that point I was thinking, what are those called when they compile so many issues together into one
Graphic novel.
graphic novel form? Yeah. Then I just started getting the graphic novels. As I forget, I'll start getting those. But I've actually fallen so far behind on it right now. The last one I had, they're still dealing with Negan in the comic series, and I know they've gone way past that now. But I like the black and white look of the graphic novel. It's gory, it's horror, which is right up my alley. Yeah, I like it. It's good. Have any of you? Are you reading it, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
No.
What?
You didn't read any of The Walking Dead, or not?
I've boycotted The Walking
Oh, okay.
Dead.
I didn't know if that was the actual
I think I've
comic
only
or the
watched
TV show.
one episode because I was over somebody's house and they
Oh,
had it
okay.
on. But it was like I was just so done with zombies when it came out.
I don't think you've read it. Have you read any of them?
I read the first ones you got because you used to bring
Yeah, that's
them
right.
to work, and I would just, when I didn't have anything to do, I would just be sitting there
that's right.
reading them, and then while everyone else is doing their work or whatever they were doing. So.
That's my number 3.
All right. You ready to get your number 3?
Here.
I did mine.
Who
Remember,
wants to
it
go
was
next?
Hulk versus Thor.
Go back to your number 2.
All right. My number 2 is not the Hulk. It's She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
I used to get She-Hulk comics because John Byrne was the writer, and I think he was the writer and the artist. And John Byrne's a really good artist. And the way his She-Hulks looked, she looked fantastic. And I used to get that. But this is like when she's walking around as the She-Hulk, but she was a lawyer as well. She wasn't like in between when she was the Savage She-Hulk, and she would go back and forth between forms or whatever. Now she was just She-Hulk all the time, which she preferred to be She-Hulk all the time.
Yeah.
And then he stopped doing it, and then the art just didn't really look good. And the art does matter to me in a comic because I'm reading the story's important, but I'm going through it. You got to keep my attention.
Yeah.
And I got to look at things. And go, man, I want to draw that later or something like that.
Well, yeah,
But
like
then-
I said, it's like a comic books. A lot of times, it's like you have the story, but then you have that comic book that has that one full page.
Oh yeah,
Picture that sticks
every
out
time
in
you
your
say the
mind.
full page, I think of Superman versus Doomsday,
Yeah.
and the part where they're both punching each other like right in the jaw. They're both their heads are going back, but the building behind them, there's this bubble of the glass from the shockwave hitting, blowing out all the windows from around
Oh,
them.
dang.
You're like, going, damn, that must have been a hit.
Yeah.
But I mean, the art on that is gorgeous. But yeah, She-Hulk always had like these weird characters, and I remember her number 2 was like just like some weird off the wall character. She was like, going, really, or Spider-Man gets so and so as his, like she would talk to the audience or the reader. that was always kind of my thing because I was like, if they ever made it like a She-Hulk movie now, you couldn't go the whole way because she was doing the Deadpool thing before Deadpool was doing it, where
breaking the fourth wall.
breaking the fourth wall. Cause she would rip the pages of her comic and she'd be peeking out her side going, "What the hell's going on in here?" She would just like get on it. She talked to the writer, she talked to the artist, stuff like that. She talked to the viewers, the readers. She was doing that before like Deadpool was, and I was like, well, you couldn't go that route now if you were going to do that.
Because then people would compare it to
Deadpool.
because
they'd go, Deadpool's doing it first, and I'd be like, I'd be the one guy in the theater going, "This is about the end of the shoot."
I was like,
no, kids.
No. Let me tell you what's going on.
But I do love the fourth wall breaking thing because they've taken it to extremes with Deadpool. Because like he was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
And his super was he would grab his life meter and hit the other person with it.
that's awesome.
So yeah.
I think that's my number 2.
My number 2, I told you when I was young I got Transformers, the Marvel run of Transformers, and it deviated from the cartoon severely. It was like there was infighting. There was a period where Optimus Prime died and Grimlock took over as leader of the Autobots, and he was a power mad dictator.
Oh, dang.
A dinosaur, of course.
Yeah. Well, Grimlock in the comic books was different from Grimlock in the cartoon.
Yeah, I just remember that one.
Yeah, they had some weird issues. There was an issue where Megatron and Ratchet got fused together.
Was it Transformers the movie where I always remember that line, and it was me, Grimlock, kick butt, and he came down with both feet.
Yeah,
and he stomped
Unicron.
Unicron,
yeah. Yes. Don't get me. That would be a whole other podcast if you get me started on Transformers the movie. That would be my number one childhood movie is Transformers the movie. But
I remember that because it was a huge deal when Spike goes, "Holy shit, we didn't even do it!" All the kids were going.
Well, the funny thing about it,
they were all doing the Home Alone.
But what was even funnier about Transformers the movie is you had this cartoon. They were having a war and nobody ever died. Then Transformers the movie came out and they killed everybody.
Yeah. People were down. You were like going, I'm
first 10 minutes.
I'm not going to be able to see that guy when I watch Bozo the Clown because he always had G.I. Joe and Transformer cartoons.
Yeah, it was like they killed everybody.
Was that WGN?
Yeah. When Transformers first showed up, it was on WGN, and then Fox got the rights and moved it to afternoons. And I was so glad because I never got to watch a full episode when it was on in the mornings.
Oh, because you had to run and go to school?
Yeah. Yeah. But there was one issue of the Marvel run where they had enough of Grimlock, and they decided that they were going to fight to see who could be leader of the Autobots. And the fight was between Grimlock and Blaster. And it was a big deal because during that battle, the Decepticons, like immediately after it was over, the Decepticons attacked them. And somebody had decided to send out a shuttle to like go back to their creators and try to bring Optimus Prime back. That's how bad of a leader Grimlock was.
That was in the comic.
Yeah, in the Marvel comic. What's so funny is even after the cartoon ended in America, the comic book was still going because they went into the Headmasters, Power Masters, all of that. They went for like at least 2, maybe 3 years after the cartoon had already been canceled. And they had all kinds of like they went as far even into the Pretenders and the Micromasters, if I remember correctly, before the comic book finally ended. Which is one of the reasons I kind of have mixed feelings about Revenge of the Fallen, the second Michael Bay movie, because I give him credit because he pulled all different types of Transformers lore into that one movie. Like, you remember the girl that tried to seduce Sam.
Oh yeah. She was like the cyborg chick.
It was like, it surprised me because that was a pretender.
Oh really?
Yeah, they did it in the toy line and in the comic books, and didn't do it in the cartoons. There were Transformers that had human shells.
All right, my number 2. I'm gonna go with Frank Miller's 300.
I've never read the graphic novel, but it was my first Blu-ray. I own 300.
Oh, the 300
I still have it.
As far as graphic novels go, it came in that big book.
Yeah.
I bought that. It was I loved the art style. Excuse me. The story was great. I thought they did an excellent job. That was one movie me and Ryan
Oh yeah, we
it was
saw
kind of, yeah, it wasn't really a spontaneous, but it was just sort of like the movie was out. We're like, yeah, you want to go see it? We're like, oh yeah, we went up there and saw it. But yeah, by the end of the movie, you're just like, war! I want to go to war.
I told somebody I saw.
We
me
came
and my
in.
friend,
We wanted to fight people.
me and my friend, we went and saw 300 in the movie theater. I told him I want to go to one of these fancy restaurants in a t-shirt, in just in a cut off t-shirt, order a steak medium rare and eat it with my bare hands
just pick it
after
up.
watching that movie. It's
Just
like
tearing it up.
yeah.
And then stand at the front door and don't let anybody leave. They have to get past you to get out.
Yeah.
Oh dang. But yeah, I thought that's a really good. I guess you technically say it's a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Is there really a difference between comic and graphic novel? Because the graphic novel is just comics, but
graphic novel is like a compilation of several issues of a comic book.
But 300 it itself was written as a graphic novel.
It was written as a graphic novel.
That's what I thought.
Because a graphic novel is like usually like I have the graphic novel of The Return of Superman, and it's about as thick as the Bible. It's about
Holy
that
crap.
big because it ran through every Superman comic that they had out at the time. So there were several issues
Oh, I wonder if my
covering The Return of Superman.
stepdad had this book of Dick Tracy comics from back in the day, and it was like it was as thick. It was like all the collected Dick Tracy ones. It was like after that movie came out, and I remember that I remember enjoying that movie, the Dick Tracy movie.
The one with Warren Beatty?
Yeah, the one with Warren Beatty, and then the wasn't Madonna in that?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she was. I don't remember the character name, but they had all the different characters from the Dick Tracy because they always had these crazy
weird
characters.
heads.
Yeah, but I remember going through that book and like looking at, oh, that's Flat Top, that's cool because he had that weird shaped head.
That was my number 2, 300. Good story, great art style.
Yeah.
Made a
Great
great
movie.
movie.
When they did the movie, didn't they do a lot of stuff that were like images taken directly?
taken straight out of the book. It's just if you've never seen or read 300 Man, it's really really good.
And if they lifted the dialogue from the graphic novel, it had some great dialogue in the movie too, especially like the messenger at the beginning. Because you figure out that guy messed up from the moment he arrived in Sparta. It's like, you show up to my city bearing the heads of the skulls and crowns of conquered kings. Yeah. You insult my queen and you threaten my people with slavery and death. And then also when he met Dude on the mountain, and it was like Leonidas had his 300 and Dude had that whole army.
That's my number 2.
Yeah.
Number 1's now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You want to go?
Sure. I will go with my number 1. And since I already mentioned The Return of Superman, and you've already mentioned it, my number 1 read, I think, comic book that sucked me in was reading the graphic novel The Death of Superman, because we had never seen a villain like Doomsday, because he didn't say anything except his name. And when DC first rolled him out, you didn't even know what he looked like. He had on this green jumpsuit with goggles. He had this big mechanical brace that trapped his right arm behind his back. And the B-League Justice Team members couldn't even deal with him. It was like he was walking through them like they were paper.
That's I mentioned that earlier. We were talking about that. He beat a whole team with one arm tied behind his back.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
original, the B team. Yeah, he punched Booster Gold so hard that he could not stop himself from flying. Superman had to catch him. He beat a Blue Beetle into a coma.
Did he kill anybody?
The real question is, who didn't he kill? That's the real question.
No, I do remember he killed the guy who was a regular human. He was like,
Other than Superman.
yeah, but he grabbed this guy and just went and just snapped
Oh,
his
right.
neck.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus.
Oh yeah, when Doomsday first showed up, it was like he punched his way out of the side of a mountain, and he was just destroying everything in his path.
I mean, because I was thinking if he killed Superman, he had to have killed other superheroes. I would think. Right?
I can't even really think of any that he.
I wish I had remembered to bring it because I still have it. Because
Yeah.
those are the 2 graphic novels I still have. I still have The Death and Return of Superman.
Because a friend of mine,
But-
Chance, collected it. He collected those individually as they were coming out. Because he was like, these are going to be worthwhile. And I can't remember. He swears today he doesn't have them. He left them at a friend of his house, and we're not even sure whatever happened to him because that guy died and his mom is probably passed by now. So we don't know where those comics are. But he had them all individually.
But yeah, the death of
he
Superman,
was really into it.
it sucked you in because you had to find out how it ended. Especially when and they didn't have like this big explosion and Doomsday's jumpsuit got ripped off or something like that. It was one piece at a time.
Yeah.
He would get damaged and a piece would get ripped and another piece would get ripped.
Yeah, it would go issue through issue, and he'd be losing more of that outfit. So
Superman?
He was just there.
No, Doomsday.
I was like, go ahead and spoil it. I've never read it, but how does Doomsday actually kill Superman? Like,
Pretty
how does it
much
all
they kill each other right in front of the Daily Planet.
Oh, so they kill each other.
Yeah, they both
was
like
it that
it's just,
shot when they both punch each other?
yeah, and it shattered the windows
glass?
of the
Yeah.
Daily Planet.
And they both hit the ground at the same time.
Yeah,
But I think Superman lives a little bit long enough to tell Lois something, and then he passes.
yeah. And then they
do
start
the little bubble, the little
yeah,
thing,
and
the
then
little
they start
bubble.
the whole return of Superman.
Did Clark did he tell her he was Superman and then they make out and they're like
Well, see, at that time, Lois knew he was Clark already by the end,
oh,
but it's like nobody else knew.
well, let me ask you this: did you ever see the animated movie Death of Superman?
I think I have.
I'm kind of curious how closely that followed it.
Not even close.
Not even okay.
Not
I had
even,
no idea.
the animated movie is not even in the ballpark. Batman versus Superman is not even in the ballpark of how destructive Doomsday was. There was a part where he came up on a deer
Yeah, that's right.
and he petted it and then snapped its neck.
Yeah, he was like,
That's how. There was one time he held his hand out and a bird landed in his
that's
hand and he crushed it.
which I understand.
And then just,
that makes no sense. Why would a bird? I mean,
and that was when he was still in the
just-
green jumpsuit
yeah.
before you got to see him.
he had his hand out and a little bird landed. I'm like going, I have to do that every day. And the little bird lands in my hand.
Yeah. And then he just crushed it. Yeah.
Was he taking the life force out of it or just?
No, he just crushed it.
He
He
just
was
destroys
just
things,
destroy. If you ran into Doomsday, you were gonna die.
Oh dang.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
I'd run the other way.
You might not be able to run that fast
Nah.
because he was fast, strong. I honestly believe Doomsday could probably take Juggernaut.
Oh, it would have been nice.
That
Do you
would've been
remember
a
that?
fight.
You remember that issue?
Uh,
Not when Doomsday, because that's obviously that's different brands.
yeah.
But when the Juggernaut landed in the center of the city, like he was just laying there in the middle of the city. We're totally going off topic, but this is a cool episode. He's laying there unconscious. They have no idea how he got there. Like he was in a crater, and he wakes up and he's confused. And like the X-Men are there, I think, and he's like trying to fight him, but they're like, going, "What are you you fighting this for? Like, what's wrong?" And somebody could tell that he was frightened. They were one of the Juggernaut's frightened. They were going, well, "How's the Juggernaut frightened?" And he was freaking out because he didn't know where he was, because he had just come to. He was in, I think, Southern California, and he got knocked from there to New York City.
Holy crap.
So he lands in the crater, and he's like, "What the hell am I?" He's like, "Where am I?" And they're like, well, "You're in New York City." He goes, "That can't be." And then he starts fighting people. They're like, well, "Why?" He's like, "I was near San Diego or something like that."
Holy crap.
He got knocked by it. Was an on? And he told them who it was. That's when the whole onslaught thing started.
He probably had a conversation with Booster Gold in the hair.
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" I don't know.
They probably passed each other.
Hey, Buster.
Yeah, they're like completely different comic universes, but they pass each other in some kind of weird parallel.
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah, they both got hit so hard.
Yeah,
That was your.
that was my number one. Was Death of Superman.
You got yours?
Yeah, you already talked about yours.
No, mine's my favorite artist and manga writer is I always say Masami Shiro, but I don't know if that's right because it's Shiro Masami or Masami Shiro. There's a certain way they write. He writes his name Masami Shiro.
Oh,
But maybe
he's-
the other
he's a
way
Japanese-
around.
Yeah,
Then, by our way, because Japanese,
Yeah.
it's usually last name
yeah.
first.
Family name first.
Yeah.
Your given name last. But he did Appleseed. He did Ghost in the Shell. He did Dominion.
classics.
He did Dominion. Tank Police.
Oh,
That
I
was a
watched
good
that
one.
anime like
M6
ago.
M66. That was a good one. Like these combat robots like get ejected or fall off of their plane, and then they break out and they have to run, so they have to chase after them. And there's this like news reporter who goes after trying to get the story, but she gets in the middle of it. It's a weird. I think that one is more of an anime than it is a manga. But the in high school, I used to like. My teacher actually told me to stop drawing Appleseed because it's all I would draw. And I was like, okay, I want to draw that. And then I started drawing Warhammer 40K Marines and stuff like that. And she was like, okay, well, just draw whatever. I don't care. But yeah, I would draw like. I think I still have a drawing of like I did in charcoal of the main character in Appleseed.
The rabbit ear guy.
Well, yeah, that's Briaris, but I mean Dune and the SWAT girl.
Oh,
It's funny because all the stuff you mentioned is like essential anime.
Oh, it
It's
is
like
now. Yeah, it
Appleseed.
totally is. Yeah, Masami Ensure is the one who basically.
I haven't
brought this
watched
stuff
the
out.
live action movie of Ghost in the Shell, but I just remember
It's-
watching the anime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're watching the anime, you're watching the movie because they basically took a large chunks
Yeah,
of it.
and the anime inspired the Wachowskis to make the
Yeah,
Matrix.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember watching what was it? Avatar, James Cameron one.
yeah.
But he was the way they had the suits moving around.
Oh, yeah.
Where you move your arms. That's from Appleseed because the things that they're called landmates are like maybe 10 foot, 12 foot tall mechs. But when you're sitting inside them and you move your arms into different positions, and then the arms rotate with you.
Well, that would
move
make
around.
sense because wasn't James Cameron gonna make? He didn't make it, but the other anime.
He's going to do Battle Angel Alita,
Yeah.
which he wants to do 4 more Avatar movies.
Something
No,
like
I don't care. Don't do it.
Somebody wanted to do Akira, and I was like,
Yeah, I'm not going. No,
it's like whenever they mention making a live action of an anime, you get like,
you cringe. You're like, no, don't do it because it doesn't sound good. What was that one you and I? Because you told me about it. I remember I got it later. That Street Fighter. Street Fighter, but the characters were live action.
oh,
live
was it
actors.
Street Fighter Assassin's Fist?
Is that it?
The one on YouTube. Have you watched Assassin's Fist?
Because they had it
I don't
on.
know if Ryan's
They
sure.
did it on YouTube, and
Because the
it
guy who
was.
played Ken is a dead ringer. For Ken.
Have you seen any of the Jason Bourne movies?
Yeah.
The second Bourne movie, The Assassin Dash, his name is Joey Anza, big Street Fighter fan, and he was tired of the Hollywood movies. So he put up his own money and he did this little short of a fight between Ken and Ryu. And he like had a cameo as Akuma. And they got picked up by Capcom to do a show. It's called Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's basically how
It's Ken and Ryu training with their master.
Okay.
Well, it parallels. It goes from Ken and Ryu training to their sensei Goken training with his brother Akuma, and it shows his brother go down the path of darkness and become Akuma.
Oh, dang.
So it does that parallel. They were supposed to do a second season called The World Warrior, where they actually got Scott Adkins to play Guile.
Oh,
yeah.
Scott Adkins. Why does that name sound familiar?
I know he was in the.
I thought I saw a trailer for that.
He's a martial artist. He's done quite a few kickboxing movies. Because I want to say the one he was in, it was a prison boxing. It was like a prison fighting tournament. Because like in the first movie, I think he wasn't in the first movie. He was in the second movie as the villain, and in the third movie, he's actually the main protagonist of the third movie.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they got Scott. I think they said they had contracted him to play Guile
Because I remember
because he could probably do the flash kick in real life. He's that good of a martial
I
artist.
remember John Claude Van Damme doing the flash kick in the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
the
But it was
classic.
basically it was basically just a somersault, but him leaving his leg out as he was doing the thing.
Yeah.
And I was
How
like,
many,
he did like 4 of them in a row.
I
Yeah.
was to say, how many Academy Awards did that movie win? It was
Tons.
I lost count. I think.
That movie was so good
Street Fighter.
movie was so good that Raw Joey didn't even want to live anymore.
No,
died.
he said after that movie he said
That's it.
I can
Okay,
finally
so-
die.
That's it.
happy.
He
And
said,
and he held his breath.
Game over.
And then he passed. No, but the guy who played Ken in that movie, I kept watching it going, man, he looked like the animated version of
Oh, really?
a live person. Yeah, he looked just like
You
of,
know,
of,
the YouTube
of, of all the artwork.
the YouTubes.
The one I think there was a YouTube one, but it actually I have it on Blu-ray or DVD. But it was like he had the long hair, and then he cuts it, and he gives the ribbon to Ryu, who wears it as his headband.
Yeah.
And then he had the short hair when he was going back to Seattle.
Yeah.
Because he was like a rich kid.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of my favorite episodes. Was when his dad shows up and teaches him how to. Because his dad used to box, so he teaches them how to throw combination punches.
Yeah, that's pretty big into his thing.
All right,
Yeah, so that's my number one. Yeah.
I'll jump into mine real quick. Mine's gonna be quick. It's how do you know, man?
Friendship is
Yeah,
magic.
it was the My Little Ponies, the pony. They're just.
Don't say you're not a brony. Say it ain't
I
so.
don't think you've ever watched it.
I'm a hardcore brony.
Say it ain't
No.
so.
No, I'm kidding. That's Ryan. Ryan's the brony.
We just went from 300 to My Little Pony.
Okay, we're gonna go from 300 to my actual number one,
Good night, everybody.
which is another Alan Moore. We're gonna go Watchmen.
Okay.
Is my number one.
See, I never read Watchmen. I just saw the movie.
Oh,
And I've known a lot
really?
of people did not like the movie, but I did. It's another one of those movies where I
I did
liked it.
too. I mean, I had read the graphic novel before, way before the movie come out, and yeah, they did switch the ending as far as what causes the catastrophe.
Yeah.
But I still liked it. But
Yeah.
yeah, the graphic novel itself is really good. The story's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's everybody knows and loves Watchmen. You make sure now, boys and girls, remember, you make sure you say Watchmen, not The Watchmen, because the comic nerds will kill you if you say The Watchmen. It's just Watchmen.
I have an app on my phone that I use to incinerate people.
Comics can't even get out of their mom's basement. They're gonna kill me.
Well, yeah, there's not much to say about that. It's a great graphic novel. So that's my number one. Everybody knows and loves that. So we're good. Except Jason, he hasn't read it.
Like I said, I saw the movie, though. I saw the movie, and I loved it.
What is it when you have stuff after you do the number ones?
Oh, like your honorable mentions?
There you go. That's the word I was looking for.
Honorable mentions. Yeah, I got to go with Batman versus Predator.
Okay.
Because it was the original one was a good series, and it's the first time we really see Bruce Wayne build a mechanical bat suit.
Oh, yeah.
Because the first time he tried to fight the Predator, just in his gear, he almost got killed. So he builds a fully mechanical Hulkbuster bat suit to fight the Predator.
Wonder, if the Predator killed Batman, would he put his skull within the cowl on display?
Oh, yeah.
Or would he just because the skull goes, that could be anybody, dude. That could be any human being.
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
You'd have to take
They'd be going.
You can see him having that argument with other Predators. That's not Batman.
That's Batman, I swear. No, it's not. Where's the cow? I didn't have it on me. Liar, whatever. It's probably that Joker guy. Look at the grin.
He would have to take something other than his skull just to prove
he'd have to have a utility belt or something.
Yeah.
Just the whole suit.
Or I got a whole Batmobile right there in my ship. My was it honorable mentions? Battle Chasers, which is now
That sounds familiar.
it's like a medieval, almost World of Warcraft. Don't sue anybody, Blizzard. This is before you. It was like a golem and a mage and a guy who's a swordsman, but I think he's always drunk because something happened in his past. Anyway, and there's a little girl with these magical gauntlets. They're like, she's a little tiny, like 9-year-old girl, but these gauntlets are like huge on her. But she basically has Hulk powers. She's a little 9-year-old girl who's as powerful as the Hulk. But then they have all
That's
kinds
just
of
comedy
characters.
that writes itself.
No. But I mean, it's drawn. Is it Joe Matt? Is his name Matt Herrera? Sound familiar to you?
A little bit, but like I said, I didn't get into the artists like you did.
Well, this is him, and he did that, and then also my other honorable mention is Danger Girl, which was Jason Scott Campbell. Is that his name?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
But that was the one where it's like girls doing a 007 kind of thing. But when it first came out, they had specific people picked to play the parts in the movie if this was ever getting done as a movie. Mm-hmm. And they had this one villain who looked suspiciously like, who was that one James Bond? The one after Roger Moore?
Was Sean Connery after Roger Moore?
Was it
or
Roger?
before?
No, Sean Connery.
Sean Connery was the last one, and then it went to Pierce Brosnan.
No, the guy between Pierce Brosnan and Roger Moore.
Oh, Timothy Dalton.
Timothy
Dalton.
It was this guy. This guy looked suspiciously like Timothy Dalton. I was like,
okay.
that guy would have been perfect to play that part. But they always had everybody. They had a guy who was the leader, or he was the trainer, or the guy who like ran the Danger Girl thing. But that guy was basically Sean Connery. But he looked like Sean Connery out of that movie when he was in the jungle with the girl and they were trying to find.
Oh, he's like, I found a cure for cancer
Yeah,
or something.
he had
It's all burning down.
He had the
What was that called?
he had the
Medicine
ponytail and everything.
Yeah,
he was just like in that show. And then I think he was in a fire. You thought he was dead, and he came back, and then he would look more like
spoilers. No,
whatever. Like this is we're talking about early '90s when this came out.
If you haven't seen the movie by now, you probably won't.
Yeah. And then my other one was I have X-Force 1. Remember when that came out?
I remember.
But it was drawn by everyone's favorite artist, Rob Liefeld. And I like the guy's art style is ridiculous. The guy himself is actually a really nice guy. If you've ever met him, I haven't actually met him, but I've always heard stories about. He's a really nice guy.
I would say somebody like me who I have no idea who's that person is. You just said.
Rob Liefeld's the guy who drew X Factor and X Force and stuff like that. But he drew. Didn't he come up with Deadpool? I think Deadpool was in X Force. Like he's fighting this guy named Wildcat, and Wildcat grabs Deadpool's mouth and breaks his jaw so he'll shut the hell up. And he's like, and then they do a little speech where he's like, damn it, not gonna get my jaw wired again.
So what is it about him that
he did the thing where like you could have like you'd have Cable holding a gun, and the very next panel he's just moving down a hallway. He's got this gigantic, oversized, ridiculous looking gun. Next panel, it's completely different looking. Next panel after that, completely different. Now it's got 3 barrels instead of 1. But you're like going, is your gun change? What the hell's going on?
Was it supposed to be a joke?
No, I just think he just liked to draw, and then he was the guy who would draw belt pouches and bullets. Like some guy running around with like 24 belt pouches on his back. You're like going, and then they have like they have a 12-pack instead of a 6-pack because they just have so many muscles. He's a real good artist. He just goes overboard when he's like, oh, I forgot what that gun looks like. It's on the panel next to that one. Draw the same gun. It's just weird.
What's that guy's name?
Rob Liefeld.
Rob Liefeld?
Yeah, I think it's Liefeld.
I would have just blamed it on Cable's mutant power.
Yeah, but I mean, like
I know Cable could control his ammo.
But
somehow.
I think he's the one with other guys who came up with Image.
Okay.
So they started Image, but I mean, the guy did get it. It's just his art style is just kind of funny. And that I don't think he can draw feet. The panel always stops just before you get to the feet.
Yeah.
Or if you do, they're always like shrouded.
This is Captain.
Yeah, look at that.
Why does everyone hate Rob Liefeld? Captain, that looks weird.
He looks like he has breast implants. he looks like
everything implants.
He looks like he started drawing a girl and changed his mind.
Yeah, it does. It looks weird.
Yeah, but look, I mean, look how broken that girl's back is.
Holy crap! How can you?
She has like spina bifida or something.
She's got something going on.
Yeah, how can somebody physically stand like that?
What is it? What
is that supposed to be her butt, or is that?
What? I don't even know.
I'm confused at this picture.
I don't know.
And you're right, the artwork's good. It just looks
it's
weird.
stuff like that makes me wish this was.
Look at her face.
It's stuff like that you need a video podcast for.
She looks like an 80s glam rocker.
Yeah, she does.
Which, by the way, I don't know if many people know this, but when we were discussing Transformers the movie, I found out why Transformers the movie looked so good is it was animated by the same people that did Heavy Metal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The original cartoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but Transformers the movie was animated by the people that did Heavy Metal.
He likes to draw their heads small.
Yeah, because didn't you know?
Look at Cable's head compared to his body.
I know, but look at that gun.
It's huge. Yeah, that head is tiny compared to the rest of his body.
Compared to the rest of it, yeah.
But I mean, the guy himself's real nice guy, but his art style, everyone was just like, oh my god, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm not. All I put was his name in, and I'm finding stuff like the 40 worst Rob Liefeld drawings. Why does everyone hate Rob Liefeld?
Yeah. Well, the funny is, a lot of people don't hate him. They just don't like his. They don't like his art.
Yeah.
He by himself he's an okay guy.
But for me, from years and years, that one with Cable and Deadpool, that's normal comic book. But the other one before the girl, that's like we need to get her to a chiropractor.
Stat, get her there. Stat.
That poor woman.
All right, I got a couple honorable mentions. I'll throw out there real quick. I'm gonna throw out another Frank Miller, his Sin City series.
Now here's the thing.
I thought you did that one.
The second Sin
Not
City
in his
movie,
300.
the second Sin City movie got a lot of bad reviews, and I watched it, and to me, it was just as good as the first one.
No, I didn't like it as much. I didn't like it anywhere near
Yeah.
I did the first one, but I don't think I ever read that. I don't know if I ever read that that graphic novel or not. I did read the graphic novel on the first one.
Our Justice League isn't getting good reviews, but that's from movie reviewers, so we'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah, probably. But I know
The only review I would wait for is IGN, because IGN usually their movie reviewer is just a normal guy. So
I usually follow like two people on YouTube that I usually get my stuff from.
Yeah.
The one guy, Chris Stuckman, I can count on that guy. I used to watch this guy Movie Bob, but then after a while, that guy just became a hipster, and nothing's good enough for this guy. So whatever.
it blew my mind when IGN gave Guardians of the Galaxy a 9, because I wasn't sure if I was going to see it, even though it was a Marvel movie.
Oh, the first one?
Yeah, the first one, they gave it a 9, and I was like, me and my friends were like, whoa, we may have to see this.
Oh, there's an honorable mention. I have a 4-issue series of Rocket Raccoon.
Oh, really?
Before the Guardians of the Galaxy ever came out, and I remember I got it. I was like, going, oh, this is a cute little character, because I was like, a raccoon that has guns. That's adorable. And then they had like a 4-issue thing, and then I was like, okay, now that movie's out, the price of those comics have better gone up.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I wish I still had half of my Transformers collection I had as a kid.
I still have comics. I'm just like,
No, not my comic books. I mean my toys.
oh,
Yeah, it was
man.
one year for my
Yeah.
birthday. My parents
I think-
got me the Constructicon set.
Yeah,
I had Devastator.
my little brother got that. We used because I've told him before. Whenever we used to get action figures, my little brother would get all the bad guys. I'd get good guys. But my little brother would outgrow things like in 3 months, and I'm the kid with the imagination. I'm like going, "Thank you," and I just
Yeah.
absorbed everything.
Oh yeah.
But I had was it Jetfire or Sky?
It depends. In the cartoon, he was Skyfire.
Because he was the big one that looked like a Macross model.
In the toy,
yeah,
and
he
the
was
comic
actually
book, he was
metal.
Jetfire.
Yeah.
Well, what's
He was
funny
Jetfire.
is the
He was-
reason
he
for
was
that
metal.
was Hasbro actually acquired the rights to Macross.
Yeah.
Was the reason Jetfire happened.
Robotech Macross. It was the
But-
one where
but
the
they
jets
were
could turn into like a
instructed-
half jet, half robot, and then a full-on robot.
Yeah. What was funny was the writers were instructed to use his character as sparingly as possible.
Yeah.
Is not to feature him majorly in any episodes other than his origin.
Yeah, that was a really well put together figure.
Yeah. Well, you know, all the Transformers came from different toy lines.
Yeah.
It was all
'Cause I
stuff
remember,
that Hasbro acquired the rights to.
Megatron was actually a good guy in the cartoon that he came from.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to be like a police officer, but he was a gun.
Yeah, and Optimus Prime, like, I think they
was
were
he
like
a German gun?
Yeah,
Like
a Walther
Yeah.
P-38.
Yeah.
Because they cannot make Megatron like he originally was now.
Yeah.
Because the original Megatron looked too real. Because I had Megatron.
Oh, that was the thing in this is off topic, but in World War Z in the book, they used to call these pistols that the air reservists used to call them Megs. Because they look like the old Megatron gun, but you could put attachments on it to make it a sniper rifle or an assault rifle if you needed to. But all you needed basically was the main gun.
Yeah,
you know,
Walther P-38.
Yeah. That's what it looked like. So.
But yeah, all the Transformers just came from. They were like toy lines that Hasbro and Takara had the rights to, and they wanted to figure out how to sell them.
Together.
So they made a cartoon. They made a 30-minute toy commercial.
It paid off dividends.
That seems kind of like Power Rangers. How that came off.
The funny thing is with Power Rangers is we always talk about who came first, Power Rangers or Voltron, And actually, if you go into the Super Sentai history, I think Power Rangers came first. But what's
That was
funny,
called something else.
what's funny is in the new season of Voltron, they actually make fun of Power Rangers. The new Voltron cartoon that's on Netflix, they have an episode where they do a live tour and they start doing flips and kicks and stuff like that. It's hilarious because you know they're ribbing Power Rangers. Yeah.
Remember this one I used to watch on? You remember Night Flight back in the day?
Yeah.
They used to show videos. They'd show like little movies and stuff like that. They had this one called Dynaman, and it was basically this like Japanese thing, but they overdub it. They would just like fill it in, kind of like Mystery Science Theater, but they would do all the dubs. I have that on tape, VHS tape.
Yeah.
From back in the day, but it was so funny. Just the way they would used to do all kinds of my friend and I used to watch it all the time. We would actually just walk around talking the lines from that movie.
You're talking about they used to do it like.
I remember, did it come on
Kinda
at like 2 in the morning? Night Flight, it came
Night
on
Flight came
late in the morning.
Yeah, it was late.
Does anybody else have any other comic
I'm just gonna show you
manga stuff?
Oh, none that I could think of right now. I'm just glad, honestly, you said a lot of your top fives were like generic, but we didn't mention anything that was more mainstream. None of us mentioned Spider-Man.
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
true. Yeah, we didn't mention
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Iron Man.
Yeah.
Oh, you want something funny?
Then we talked about
Did you ever
Batman.
go- when you went to get
Well, we did talk about
comics. My friend Travis and I used to go get comics, and we used to like walk in there, and you'd see those guys who would walk up, and they just grab 2 of everything, just go down the line, grabbing 2 of everything of all the new comics that come out. Did the new comics come out? Was it Tuesday or Thursday? Something like that. I think it was Tuesdays. They used to go down the line and just grab 2 of everything, and I was like just shaking my head, going, I'm over here struggling to buy like 2 comics that I want to get.
Yeah.
And this guy's buying 2 of everything. You know he's not gonna read him. He's gonna bag them and board them and put them in his.
Or
put 'em
he
in
may
a
be
thing.
getting one to read and
one to read and one to hold on to.
one
yeah.
to air seal and
But
throw
yeah,
in a vault.
when I was getting the comics, it's when they had the gold foil and all the weird like 3D covers. Like going, really? What
I
the hell is this?
I had let's see, it was an X-Men comic that had like the 3D plate on the front that had a 3D image
Yeah.
on it.
Well, since we decided, since we got Jason here, we're gonna go ahead and just tell what the next topic is. We're not gonna roll.
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Yeah, we're not gonna roll this week, so we're gonna go ahead and
Wasn't it this one?
Yeah, the anticipated video games that aren't out now but are coming soon.
Okay, so you just the video games you're looking forward to playing
Yeah.
that are coming out
Yeah.
quick soon.
Or do you want to cover all video games growing up and stuff like that, and then go into that?
We could do that.
We could probably
We could do
sprinkle
that.
a little of
Yeah,
fairy
you-
dust with a little bit of.
We could do that because
Toad
I'm,
warts
I'm, I'm a
Because if you say video games coming out, I can tell you right now, I'll be done.
yeah.
You're not looking forward to
You
that?
wanna-
Okay,
you
well,
wanna
I'll
stretch
wait.
it.
I'll wait and talk to you about the next one.
You
But
wanna
yeah, so
stretch
we're
it
gonna that'll be our video games. What we've been looking forward to is kind of what we've been playing. That'll go ahead and just be our next topic. So unless you got anything else,
No, I'm done.
okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode. So for Geeks-a-Musing, this is Nathan.
This is Ryan.
And your special guest, Jason Grimes.
Be a geek, be a nerd, but don't be a dork.